Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be solving more linear equations. So no need to waste time, let's jump right in. Solve the following equations for x. So we have 4 over 5 times the quantity 2x plus 1 equals x. So we'll start by distributing the 4 over 5. So we have 8 over 5x plus 4 over 5 equals x. Next, we'll subtract 8 over 5x from both sides of the equation. In order to do that, x needs a common denominator of 5. So this will be 5x over 5. So on the left we have 4 over 5. On the right, negative 3 over 5x. Now to isolate the x, we'll multiply both sides by 5 over negative 3. So on the left-hand side, that's going to give us 20 over negative 15. On the right-hand side, negative 3/5 times 5 over negative 3 is 1. So we just have x. The numerator and the denominator have a common factor of 5. So we have 4 over 3 negative. So I can take the negative out of the denominator and place it in front of the fraction. And we would have negative 4 over 3. Now, if we noticed, when we did this multiplication, there was a 5 in the numerator, 5 in the denominator. We could have simplified that before we multiplied, and then we would have got negative 4/3 directly. Now in this video, I'm leaving the checks up to you. I want you to practice that skill on your own. Our next example, 3x over 2 minus 5 equals 7 over 3. So our first step is going to be adding 5 to both sides of the equation. Now in order to do that, 5 needs a common denominator of 3, so we're going to replace plus 5 with plus 15 over 3. So on the left side we have 3x over 2. On the right side we're going to have 22 over 3. Now we can multiply both sides of the equation by 2/3, which is the reciprocal of this coefficient. So on the left, we'd have just x. On the right, we have 44 over 9. So the solution to this equation is 44 over 9. Our next example, 4 minus 5x divided by 2 equals x plus 1. So I'm going to start by putting parentheses around the left side and multiplying both sides of this equation by 2. So on the left-hand side, we would just be left with 4 minus 5x, because both of those terms are being divided by 2. On the right-hand side, we have to distribute the 2 in, so we'd have 2x plus 2. And now we can proceed from there. I'll add 5x to both sides of the equation. That's going to give us 4 equals 7x plus 2. And then we could subtract 2 from both sides of the equation. We'd have 2 equals 7x. And one final step to isolate the x, multiply by 1/7 on both sides. So we get 2, let's fix that, we get 2 over 7 equals x. So the solution is 2 over 7. Our next example, x times x plus 2 equals the quantity x minus 3 times the quantity x minus 1. So this brings back some old skill into what we're doing. So we're going to start by distributing the x on the left-hand side. So we have x squared plus 2x. On the right side, we're going to distribute the x. So we'll have x squared minus x. Distribute the negative 3 minus 3x plus 3. So on the right-hand side rather, we have to combine our like terms. So x squared minus 4x plus 3. And going forward from there, we can subtract both sides by x squared. That's going to leave us 2x equals negative 4x plus 3, which is a good thing because we haven't talked about solving equations with x squared terms in them, but they simplify out. We can add 4x to both sides of this equation. So we get 6x equals 3. And one final step to isolate the x, multiply both sides by 1/6. And we get x equals 1/2. So the solution is 1/2. Our next example, x plus 7 divided by 3 minus x minus 4 divided by 5 is equal to 5. So a little bit more complex here. The first thing that I would do is find a common denominator so that we can combine the terms on the left-hand side. So that means I'm going to multiply the numerator by 3, the denominator by 3 in our second term. In our first term, multiply the numerator by 5 and the denominator by 5 so that we'll have a common denominator of 15. So that gives us 5x plus 7 over 15 minus 3x minus 12 over 15 equals 5. Now what I would also do is I would change this to an addition problem and distribute the negative to each term in the numerator. So this becomes minus 3x and then plus 12. I think that's just a simpler way to approach the problem. Now that they have a common denominator, we would combine our terms in our numerator. So 5x minus 3x gives us 2x. 7 plus 12 is plus 19 over 15 equals 5. Let's fix that. 5 equals 5. And now from here, it proceeds pretty straightforward. We're going to start by multiplying both sides of the equation by 15. So on the left, we get 2x plus 19 equals 75. Then we can subtract 19 from both sides of the equation. And that's going to give us 2x equals 56. And then we can multiply both sides of the equation by 1/2. So we'd have x equals 28. So the solution here is 28, and you can check that that works by plugging it back into the original problem. Now just changing up the variable, solve the following equations for p. So we have 5p plus 2 divided by 9 equals p minus 1 divided by 2. So in this instance, I think the best way to start would be cross multiplying. So we can cross multiply here. And what we'd wind up with is 2 times the quantity of 5p plus 2 equals 9 times the quantity of p minus 1. From there, we can distribute the 2 on the left-hand side, so 10p plus 4. On the right-hand side, we can distribute the 9, so 9p minus 9. And then from there, we can subtract 9p on both sides of the equation. We'd wind up with p plus 4 equals negative 9. And then we can subtract 4 from both sides of our equation. And we wind up with p equals negative 13. So our solution set is negative 13. Now our last example, 7p minus 5 over 3 equals 2p plus 11 over 2. So let's start by adding 5 over 3 to both sides of the equation. Now in order to do that, we need a common denominator. So the common denominator between 2 and 3 is 6. So this, if we multiply the numerator and the denominator by 3, we'd have 33 over 6. And then this term, multiplied by 2, we'd have 10, and then multiply by 3 by 2, we get 6. Okay, so the new problem becomes this. So on the left-hand side, we have 7p equals 2p plus 43 over 6. Next, we could subtract 2p from both sides of the equation. That's going to give us 5p equals 43 over 6. And then multiply both sides by 1/5. And we are left with P equals 43 over 30. And that is our solution to this equation. Hey, so a lot more fractions in all of the equations that we dealt with in this video, whether it was in the actual terms of the equation or in our solution. But regardless, we still approach it the same way, and hopefully you see why I preferred multiplying by a reciprocal instead of dividing by a value, so that it's a little bit more efficient, a little bit easier for us when we get all of these fractional terms. All right, so as always, now go and practice so that you feel confident in solving linear equations.